This Challenger Rengar player hit 1000 LP with an 83% win rate. And even though Rengar is one of those one-triggerable champions, most players just cannot pilot the champion correctly. And most assassin junglers always struggle to climb with a high win rate. Though once I started watching all of his VODs and seeing exactly what he was doing as a Rengar player myself, I noticed how he was able to read the map and have a really strong early game plan, whether that meant kills or demoralizing counter jungling. He would always let the best decisions come to him. He would play with a measured approach, not as aggressive as you would expect from a Rengar, but he would find and play around the flow of the game and always put himself in a position to carry his teams. And no matter which champion you play, that's the best thing you can learn as a jungler. How do you have a strong enough early game even if things don't go exactly as planned, all the randomness happens, and we will cover everything, that you still have the ability to flip the switch and win the game. And that's the only way you climb with such a high win rate to Challenger. However, I think we should start with the runes and the items just because you need to know what tools you're using when I teach you exactly what he does in the early games through multiple examples. As you would have seen, we're starting with the QWE and then of course maxing QEW. Obviously, 98% of the time, we're going to go with the First Strike rune page and the Relentless Hunter. Movement speeds and blue pad are all you need to make sure you have best bush jumping, best chase down, and a magnificent ultimate usage. Which of course he does play around on cooldown basically, and he does have the Duskblade Axiom Arc technology as something he runs. But that's only about 40% of the time. And yes, these percentages are 100% accurate, you can go ahead and have a look, but the default itemization is obviously going to be Duskblade into your Prowler's Claw, and then you can go Edge of Night as necessary versus the comp, or into a Lord Doms to eviscerate them. And if you do go Edge of Night, you can obviously go with the Lord Dominix afterwards. In certain situations, you can eliminate the Prowler's Claw entirely if you need that Edge of Night second, although that is really a unique comp-based situation and game state situation. And obviously the rest of the itemization can go a multitude of ways. You have your Ravenous Hydra, your unique Serpent's Fang when necessary. You can combine that with a Bloodthirster for some extra lifesteal and mega damage, and obviously if you need Mortal Reminder, do get it. And when he does go for that Axiom Arc build, it is typically second and then followed by Prowler's Claw or Edge of Night with the Lord Doms, the same kind of basic itemization. And to stay on top of Rengar's best runes and itemization as we head towards the end of Season 13 and Season 14, Mobalytics is the way to go. It's faster, it's more accurate, and while most sites just assess the items individually, Mobalytics now assesses them as part of a build, so it's way more accurate and reflective of how good they are. You can't just show a third item and say, look at the win rate, when you have no idea what the first two items were. All of this updated and pushed live to the companion app where you can put it directly into your client, along with all of the pre-game tips, post-game tips, as well as in-game tips. So if you want to dominate on the best junglers in the best way with all of the best information and keep up to date with all of the new itemization changes as the meta develops, click the link in the description below to download Mobalytics today. Alright, obviously for you, I have the baseline clear. I have when you get invaded, how to play from behind. I have a vertical jungling example, but let's start off with something spicy, yeah? The Rengar invade, that's why we're here, right? To see how it happens. So basically, you can do the late invade still, but really the current meta and the way the jungle is set up, I don't advise this. I prefer this, what he does here. Red side quadrant, know the enemy jungler started the same side, match them, cut in, invade them. You can kill them, and if you can go ahead and steal their buff as well, all of these are good things. Unfortunately, the Evelynn has company, so we just steal it, and we jump on out. Now you can fall back to your blue side. The downside here is I don't think we should set up the walls for good sequencing. I think it's obvious at this point that the Evelynn thinks you're gonna do the bottom scuttle. If you do blue and grump just to take those off the map, you can base and then cut off and protect your Krugs. Unfortunately, we did the whole blue side quadrant, ignored the scuttle, Evelynn steals our Krugs, and now we can chase her into their jungle. Remember, when you do this kind of stuff, you gotta focus on your mechanics, who has lane prior and whatnot. We're able to kill the Evelynn and carry on our way. What he likes to do from this is actually go back to the Raptors, finish off the top side so it's clean, and then go down to the dragon. Use his aggression, use his lead here to push the enemy jungler out of the bottom side quadrant just to get a dragon. Let's now jump into a more regular game because I want to talk about this dragon sneak and what happens when you actually can't get it. We're building an early game library of exquisite jungling here. Mostly because once you full clear all the way to the top and you get level 4 by 330, you're looking to basically get deep vision on the enemy jungle. If they started on the same side, it's the same as any sort of predatorial jungle instinct. Hey, can I go and invade and kill them? Or hey, should I just take my scuttle, go back to base? Or hey, is it possible to gank first? Or maybe even double scuttle? These are the things you think about when you path in the same direction, but when you path in the opposite direction, which is what most junglers tend to do in high elo, you can go ahead and go deep ward his Raptors, go deep ward his Krugs, and obviously go deep ward the top lane with your knife and show them where you want to put it. Now what these deep wards allow you to do is go back to base and then see where the enemy jungler paths next. In this case, the Zac took longer, goes to his Raptors, you press tab, you track his CS, and you now know that those Krugs are available and that he's pathing to his blue side. Typically, this player actually likes to do a lot of early dragons. I'll show some footage now. If he can do that in order to set himself up for a ping pong game, whereby, I mean, you do the dragon and then you kind of go top side and take the herald, then you do the next dragon, then the next herald, then the next dragon, dragon, baron, and then elder if necessary, and you win. That's really the ultimate objective ping pong. Now, while all of that is important and true, these are all opportunistic takes based upon the enemy jungler's pathing, tempo of the map, and laner priority. And obviously you can do that because the dragon spawns before the herald, but in 75% of the games he plays, by 12 minutes, he has the first herald. Obviously that then lines him up to have maybe a second dragon or a first dragon, it doesn't really matter. The goal is always get that first herald as much as possible, and if you can take advantage of the enemy jungler's positioning and the tempo of the map and snack a first dragon earlier, there's no reason not to do it, especially when it's free, because you have control over the map and there's no downside. You're not wasting time, you're not losing your top side, you're not losing a herald unless you have to give it up. However, in this particular game, because our bottom lane shoved and died, the enemy jungler had to respect us to a certain degree, but we didn't have the prior to do this dragon, we fall back to our raptors and go to the top side. Typically here you can do your Krugs raptors into the dragon should you have the prio, but if you don't have the prio, you can just full sequence upside and then of course counter jungle anyway. Because stacking that bone tooth is so important on Rengar to stack your bonus AD from it, you're obviously going to look for those opportunistic kills and assists, but you don't necessarily want to die for it, and this is where the measured game flow comes into practice. So what he does is say, look, I know your Krugs are available, I know your red's going to be available, I know you're going to use your prio to get that dragon, so I'll let you have it, take your Krugs, and take your red. But because I placed that ward early instead of using it to jump to the Krugs, I have a perfect timer on your raptors, so I'm going to snack that as well. Now we will talk about how he approaches the next phase of the early game in the next example, but just note that this game was a lot more passive. We tried to ult the mid lane, we basically had to give up the herald, the enemy Zac was doing what the enemy Zac does. And in this case, it's alright to wait until 10-11 minutes before you use your ultimate properly and get that sweet double kill. You're just looking for the jumping off point. So this is typically what you'd look for in an early game as we jump into our next example showcasing what happens if you get face checked by the entire enemy team that is an Ivern and now you lose your red buff. Now, as most of you know and you watch him do this, he will go and try and steal the enemy's red buff to really just get back at him and take things away. The fact that we're behind is irrelevant. We might as well try a higher risk play now. And he's an Ivern, and so he's used Smite, and he's actually not able to really go and suck all his camps up and smite it away from you. However, as on your way to do anything in the jungle, please keep your eyes open for potential ganks. This is where this Rengar play is especially strong, and you'll see this in the main example we go over in a second. He's always able to find these ganks through the mid lane. He's always able to find opportunistic ganks within the flow. He's not forcing it. He's ulting off cooldown later on, but he's not necessarily running into lane saying, hello, I need to gank you. Control your camps, control the tempo versus the enemy jungler. Okay, look, I've got a great gank top lane like in the last example, let me do it. Here, let me kill the Anivia and then go and take the enemy's red. Unfortunately though, you don't have your E, so you can't do the Krugs, and even then you don't have W, so why would you want to? We go and do the Raptors. Shows up, does the Ivern, chases us through. We end up dying, but we get the kill back. Remember with Rengar and all examples with this player, if there's a rough situation mechanically, where he's caught out, where bad things happen, you always look to use your mechanical prowess to turn and get one back, to get two back. Because if you die, you still gain a lead against them. Yes, you scale with gold really, really well. You have bone tooth stacks. You have the ability to now one-shot people. It doesn't matter if you have 8 deaths. If you've got 10 kills, you can carry the game. I mean, obviously don't int for invades, don't int for ganks, but it should things happen that you can't control, as long as you are good on the champion mechanically and actually pressing the right buttons, as I will show you in this video, you will be able to come out ahead. As you see in this example, we're able to now sequence down, yeah, we die again bottom lane, but you're 3-3-2. That's absolutely okay with 3 bone tooth stacks. Let's look at a total comprehensive early game and how we fully adapt to the situation at Snowball using exactly what Rengar does to control games and how this player did it to get an 83% win rate. So, obviously you want to start on the top side and do the regular stuff, right? It's a Rek'Sai, you know Rek'Sai probably going to start on the red side, could invade her, could counter gank her, could just do the regular stuff, but then you see your bottom lane are ready to late invade, and so you go. Yes, Rengar can do that as well. And when you vertical jungle, basically your job is to try and counter gank and control mid lane as much as you can in the 2v2, but mostly to really put a lot of pressure on the side lane. If you are unable to match the enemy Rek'Sai or enemy jungler actually tower diving, affecting your bottom lane, affecting mid lane, it doesn't really matter, then what you should be doing is saying, look, I don't want to do this vertical jungling thing anymore, it's just not really gonna work out for me. So you go back to base and ensure you can control the first respawn of your camps. In this case, the wolves were done before the grump. You have the basic timers and you're able to snack the wolves up around 420 and then of course the grump a little bit later. What this means is because the enemy jungler has no clue whether you did her blue side or your red side first, the timers that she has are completely off. So when the enemy Rek'Sai goes to the top side of the map, you can actually go ahead and try to do what I said he wanted to do in the Zac game. Do a full clear, look for Scuttle, get a gank off, go back to base, do the first 2 camps that respawn, and then do the dragon. You have the ability to pressure the enemy jungle off, and so you can. We saw it executed with the invade against the Evelyn, and now we can basically do it normally, well as normal as early game jungling with vertical can be at this stage, but we're able to snag that dragon. This might actually force a full-on fight, but the biggest lesson you can take away from this Rengar gameplay in this video is he has not forced fights on his own desire that will not have a chance of panning out. The bard shows up, we kill him, easy contest. The dragon goes through, we're able to fight it out. We don't go invading the Rek'Sai's red side when it's due coin flip. We go ahead and do the raptors, and we want to do the Krugs. There's an RNG scuttle. We hit the plant, we look at Prio. We don't have Prio, so we don't take the fight. Rengars also don't like Rek'Sai historically anyway. Nice little bit of a counter pick. And so you're not trying to necessarily fight fights you can't win. He lets the game come to him. That's what you've learned throughout this whole video so far. How do I play the early game based upon the random things that happen and maximize my own golden experience? However, we will see this game all the way through. And finally, we have a really good ultimate. We are able to jump on in, use the empowered Ebola virus, and then follow it up with another one. Remember, the triple Q is all sexy and cool, but you also need to know that you can sometimes just go for the double root, especially when it's a Jax, a mobile champion with a counter strike, you've got other knockups and CC from your laner. Set it up, tee it up, so that you can actually get the kill. Now again, we know Rek'Sai's topside, we know that they have Prio for that Herald. Could we go ahead and contest? Yes. Do we have ultimate to do so? No. So will we? No. What can we do instead? Take their whole red side exactly like the Zac. You're seeing that lethal counter jungling come forward once again. If you cannot do this with Rengar, if you cannot make these reads, if you cannot know when you need to put forward aggression and when you just need to be counter jungling and scaling, then you're not going to have a lot of success on the champion. Obviously, if you have terrible mechanics, then that doesn't help either. But when you have good fog of war abuse, which he does, his pathing has been exquisite in this video, always knowing where wards are, walking around the gaps, sneaking in to take a red and killing the ADC, and then, going and killing the bot as well. Take the Herald, enjoy it. You don't know where I am until I've already killed your bottom lane, which means you can't really do anything about it. You can't take my red side and dive top lane. And I'll show you a clip of where he does this as well, like in the Zac game. When you're able to get a kill like this and move around fluidly, hit the turret. Grab a plate. He never wastes an opportunity to get gold, because gold is Rengar's best friend. Only Master Yi might scale better, and even that's a debatable point. He is in the S+ tier of gold scaling champions, yes? And basically what you do then is you try and get 6,000 by 14 minutes as an absolute minimum. This is what I think is the gold amount for you to say, you know what, I can carry this game. But the scenarios Master Yi Challenger rank 1 goal of actually 1v9 smurfing is get 9,000 by 14 minutes. I've already heavily recorded this video, but actually this is NattyNat, and he is a rank 1 EU West player as well. Didn't know that when I was doing the scouting, only just found it out, so I'm gonna slap his Twitch below, you guys can go and watch him. But we do the Raptors into the Scuttle, into a mid lane skirmish, we die. We can ignore that, everybody dies. Ideally we don't, but we're Rengar. Every time we turn around a kill or a death into 2-3 opportunities for more cash money gold, you're basically sitting pretty. That's literally why he has that skin. Now, out of base, you might think, but my red buff and my Krugs, that's the low elo mentality. The real mentality is, look, Rek'Sai's top lane, I don't know what she's doing, I don't really care at this point. I'm transitioning this into the mid game already. I'm gonna go ahead and snag that dragon up, and remember the turret on the bottom lane that he hit a few times? Because you do that, you enable your bottom lane to actually take it sooner and start to move around the map sooner. That's what this Rengar player, this Rengar, does so damn well. Because now you've got an ADC who's splitting and dying. And this is where you're gonna see the eventuality of what this early game amounts to. The strong mid-game assassination cut protocol, otherwise known as I'ma kill bitches who split and then go and hit turrets afterwards. After kills, after objectives, after pushing turrets, you always cut into jungles, scan bushes, try and use that blue pad to get max jump range, mega damage. If you don't get anything, sucks, but you tried. If you do, cool, we win the game. Once you've done counter jungling their souls, now you can fall back to your camps. And it wouldn't be an ultimate Rengar guide of someone reaching challenger if they didn't have a triple Q. We see the Rek'Sai go for the top scuttle, and this Rengar says, triple Q time. And remember, when a Rek'Sai player dies, all Rengar mains across the world feel it through the connection in the force, and they're all happy. From here, you can fall back to your camps as per usual, and don't overstay. If you have enough money for your second item, go get it. We're setting up for that Mega Soul win condition, and obviously it's not really going to get to that point. And in this game, you notice we didn't go the Prowler's Claw second. We looked at the game, we see the Anivia, we see the Bard, the Caitlyn, the Rek'Sai W, obviously. Having that Spell Shield immunity is going to be game-changing when you get to the team fights and the skirmishes that you're trying to avoid, really, but it's still good to have. Now here's where I have a difference of opinion in things. We're level 10, we do the blue, we go mid lane, we grab a kill, we flash out of the Bard ult, we try and kill even more, and if your passive gets procced, and you die. What I think we should have done, and I know I just spoke ahead there, is to actually just push that bottom wave. When you've got that bottom wave there, you can apply an immense amount of split pressure, especially when multiple bodies are in the mid lane, especially when your Aatrox is splitting on the top lane. So as a Rengar, don't be afraid to let your team suffer a little bit in the mid lane in a 1-3-1 split push. This means they will be forced to rotate to you. You can ult to escape or ult to rotate in. That's the kind of mid-game strategy you want to employ as Rengar basically all the time. You don't want to jump in 1v4, 1v5, unless you have such a big lead it doesn't matter. Of course, we're not quite there yet, but this player is a former rank 1 player and so knows how to play this champion pretty damn well. However, for the rest of you, try and leverage that macro pressure split, and then obviously ult people who are splitting by themselves. Now, I am happy to say for this game, that's pretty much what happens. We always look for sideline pressure, we're flanking those team fights. If there is a team fight, we're flanking from the edges, but ideally, we're just always making sure that they have a numbers disadvantage. We're pushing sideways, and we're using that pressure to fall back to objectives. You can use Rengar's ult as a zoning tool. You press it, people back up. Don't always have to go in on it, but you know, it's nice to do so. And then you can just ult on cooldown, take objectives on cooldown, and as you're seeing, eviscerate everybody with enhanced mechanics, strong items, and huge amounts of gold advantage. And if you are team fighting a little bit more, you can go for that Ravenous Hydra Bloodthirster kind of combo at the end. Don't really think the Serpent's Fang has done anything this game whatsoever. Probably not the best item to use in this arena. Could have easily gone with the Prowler's Claw or something else third. Couldn't have even done an Aximark thing if you're ulting this much. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Rengar has his own ways. I will leave a link to the match history as well as the champion player profile below so you can study the itemization and figure out which one suits you best. And that's how this player used Rengar to get 1000 LP. Don't forget, if you want to understand more about the jungling philosophies behind this to become a monster jungler, that video is linked on your screen now.